Hi guys, I want to speak briefly today about mindfulness cognitive behavioral therapy. If you're someone who's been looking to improve your mood, you've probably heard about mindfulness therapy. I myself am hearing it more and more often, not just in academic and clinical settings, but also just from everyday people describing how they're trying to use this technique to improve their mood. I want to talk about it briefly today because aside from mood, I think there are a lot of other applications to behavior change that could be of value to you. So what is mindfulness therapy? Mindfulness cognitive behavioral therapy basically encourages us to live in the moment. So instead of trying to direct our thoughts away from how we're feeling, we think about how we're feeling and we accept it without the judgment. And that's the real key there, is that, for example, if you're feeling worried, your script in your mind previously might have been, I'm worried, I'm always a worried person, this is just the way I am. Whereas mindfulness therapy can help us access, I am feeling worried. I'm not necessarily a worried person. It doesn't make me a bad person. It doesn't make me a weak person. I am feeling a bit worried right now. And when we start to focus on acceptance without the judgment, we can get rid of that piece of us that wants to identify with how we feel. Because it's that identification of how we feel with who we see ourselves as a person that can be really problematic in letting negative thoughts go, which I think is really useful for a lot of different changes we're trying to make in our life. I read a study that explained why mindfulness cognitive behavioral therapy might be so effective in helping depressed people have a lower incidence of relapse. And in the study, they found that there was two factors that led to the success of the therapy. The first was the mindfulness piece. So people are increasing their attention to how they're feeling and are better able to stay calm in the moment because they don't have that sort of identification. And by doing that, they can also kind of stop that script, that kind of, I would almost describe it as like this train that kind of keeps running that you need to almost interrupt before it goes off the tracks. It's almost a way of doing that before things get too far. But the other piece I thought was something that we don't think enough about is self-compassion. And by accessing self-compassion, we just can allow ourselves to feel good about ourselves again. And I think if you are trying to make a change and you have a hard time and you face a barrier, it's really tempting to just sort of feel like crappy about yourself. And that perpetuates that mood and that thinking that makes it really difficult to make a change. I think if we focus more on that self-compassion when we are trying to make changes, it might be easier for us to actually do that because we can release ourselves from identifying with all those things that we feel about ourselves when we're not successful right away, and really just kind of look at it as information. And that self-compassion also helps us access this common humanity, which is like, everyone has a hard time, everyone struggles, it's okay. I'm still a good person. And when we have that kind of higher self-esteem, then it's easier to get back on track and to work towards what's important to us without being derailed. I hope that was helpful. I will link to the study in the description box below, and I will talk to you guys soon.